The Earth is an oblate spheroid. This is not a theory, it's a fact. But what did our ancestors think the Earth looked like, and how did we get here to knowing that the Earth is a spheroidal object orbiting the Sun? The spherical Earth was first postulated by Pythagoras in 500 BC and became a generally accepted fact by the 1st century AD. However, our conception of the workings of our solar system did not become concrete until the 1500s, when the heliocentric model became prominent, and we are still trying to understand our universe more and more every day. Despite the heliocentric view of the world being supported by years of scientific inquiry, surveys among Americans, Germans, and Britons have shown that about 20% of these populations still believe in geocentrism, that the Earth is the center of the universe. The flat Earth has also become a topic of mainstream debate on YouTube recently. This made me think, how did we get here? How did we start from more or less a flat description of our Earth and come to a point where we have a lot of scientific evidence that it's not flat, but we also have people that think it might be flat or might be the center of the universe, despite science telling otherwise. In this series of videos, we review the progression of our worldview from one in which the Earth was the center of everything to one where it was not. In doing so, hopefully I can paint a picture of how scientific inquiry has led to the change in our worldview, and maybe also look at why there are still people that believe in geocentrism or that the Earth is flat. To start, let's look at what ancient civilizations thought the world looked like. Ancient models of the shape of the Earth and the solar system connect closely with the creation myths of different cultures. Yet they could be seen as the initial steps in the scientific understanding of the Earth and the solar system, as they usually aim to describe what was seen by observers on Earth. The flat Earth model was the conception of the shape of the Earth as a plane or a disk. Many ancient cultures believed in this concept with some distinctions. In addition, most cultures had a geocentric worldview at some point, seeing the Earth as the center of the universe. Let's review some of these ancient worldviews. About 5,000 years ago, the region known as the Mid-East was where the first Bronze Age cultures were formed. As civilizations formed, they tried to explain the universe using myths. The earliest mythical and theological descriptions of the cosmos can be found in the Mesopotamian civilizations. Babylonians believed that the heavens and earth constitute a six-level universe consisting of 3 heavens and 3 earths: 2 heavens above the sky, the heaven of the stars, the earth, and the underground of the Apsu and the underworld of the dead. Egyptians and early Mesopotamians believed Earth was a disk floating in an ocean with a hemispherical sky dome above. Ancient Egyptians thought that the sky is a roof supported by pillars. Sumerians believed that this roof was made of tin. Israelites also had a similar belief to Mesopotamians, with a flat disk-shaped Earth floating in water with an added rigid canopy called the firmament, separating the Earth from the heavens and the stars, moon, and planets embedded into this firmament, with an underworld also located below the Earth. The Old Testament mentions that this dome separates water from water, meaning that above it there should be more water. And of course, this was a geocentric model, with the Earth being the center of the universe. The geocentrism is still used nowadays even for the Maimonides calendar calculations. The Bible also mentions pillars that keep the firmament up. Arabs at the time had a slightly different cosmology, with the heavens not having any pillars. That being said, thanks to the work of Greek astronomers, by the time Christianity came about, a spherical Earth was the norm and was adopted by Christians. Christians still believed in a geocentric world with a series of concentric spheres for describing the planets and their motion, a view which was not changed until the 1500s. European and Muslim astronomers played a vital role in resolving the issues with our worldview, which eventually led to the heliocentric model of our solar system. More on that story though in the next video. Ancient Iranians believed in a cosmos made up of the earth, the atmosphere, and the heavens above. Beyond heavens was endless lights, and below the earth was darkness and chaos. The earth rested on a cosmic sea called the Varukartu. At the earth's center was cosmic mountain Hara. Down the Hara flowed the river Ardvi. The earth was divided into 6 continents surrounding the central continent of Khivanirata, the locus of Aryana Vajia, the land of the Aryans. Most information about the exact shape of the earth believed by the ancient Persians is lost. Some say Zoroastrians believed in a spherical Earth, others say it was the shape of a 7-layered ziggurat. Persian astronomers played a vital role during the Middle Ages in developing an understanding of Earth's rotation around its axis, which helped pave the way towards the heliocentric model of the solar system. Early Indian cosmology described Earth as one in a series of flat disks, while also models of a concave Earth, like a bowl, existed. By the 5th century AD, Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism had developed a somewhat consistent worldview. In these cultures, Mount Meru, or Sumeru, is a sacred 5-peaked mountain seen as the center of the physical, metaphysical, and spiritual universes. The mountain is said to be 80,000 yojanas high, 1 yojana being 12 to 15 kilometers high, which would be higher than the sun, moon, planets, and stars. If you stood atop the mountain, you would be able to look down at all the luminous bodies circling the disc-shaped Earth below. In this cosmology, the world is broken down into different levels. The one we inhabit as humans is called Manusya Loka, being basically the surface of the Earth. The mountain ring encircling Sumeru are surrounded by a vast ocean, filling most of the world, and the ocean itself is surrounded by a circular mountain wall. This world has 4 continents. The Jambudvipa, which is the South Island inhabited by human beings who are 5 to 6 feet tall and live for about 140 years. The Purvavideha, which is the eastern semicircular island inhabited by 12 feet high people who live for up to 250 years. Aparagodania, which is the western circular island with 24 feet high inhabitants who live for 500 years. And the Uttarakuru, which is the northern square-like island inhabited by 48 feet tall inhabitants who live for 1,000 years. The disc-shaped Earth is known to extend downward to the same depth of 80,000 yojanas. Below this depth is a layer called Golden Earth, made of a compact substance to support the weight of the structure, and it is 320,000 yojanas deep. This is followed by 8 million yojanas deep layer of water, followed by a 16 million yojanas deep circle of wind, which supports 1,000 different worlds. Indian astronomers, although they initially obviously believed in this model, later moved towards a spherical Earth model and contributed to the development of our understanding of the world as we know it today. The prevailing belief in ancient China was that the Earth was flat or slightly concave, of square shape, and that the heavens were round. The Chinese developed 3 cosmological models based on this. The Gaitian or hemispherical dome model believed that the heavens were a hemisphere lying over a dome-shaped Earth. The Hantian school of thought saw the heavens as a celestial sphere, similar to the models that were developed by the Greek. The Huanyu school of thought viewed the heavens as infinitely large, with the celestial bodies floating in the heavens with their speeds dependent on their individual nature. Despite the initial introduction of a spherical terrestrial globe by Persian astronomers in 1267 to the Chinese, these flat models, or almost flat models of the Earth, were in use until the 17th century when European astronomy was introduced to the region. During this time, Jesuits held high positions as astronomers in the Chinese imperial court and introduced the concept of a circumnavigable spherical Earth based on the European discoveries to China. Norse mythology talks of the 9 realms unified by the world tree Yggdrasil. Earth, or Midgard, is home to the humans, which is also the center of the cosmos. It is flat and surrounded by an ocean with the axis mundi, or the world's ash tree, or a pillar at the center. Early Greeks also followed a flat Earth belief, with poets such as Homer describing it in their poetry and Greek historians in their texts. Homer talks of a flat disc-like Earth surrounded by water under a metallic hemisphere constituting the sky. The Odyssey and the Iliad speak of a similar concept. Anaximenes and Empedocles saw the stars as implantations on the sky dome. Pre-Socratic philosophers also believed in a flat Earth. Thales is said to have believed in an Earth floating in water like a log, or a round Earth. Anaximander believed that the Earth was cylindrical in shape with a flat circular top held at the center of everything, with the sun, moon, and the planets as holes in a wheel surrounding the Earth, through which a fire could be seen. Anaximenes of Miletus believed the Earth was flat and rides on air. Xenophanes of Colophon thought the Earth was flat, with the top touching the air and the lower side extending without limit. Archimedes believed that the middle of the flat Earth was depressed like a saucer to account for the fact that the sun does not rise at the same time for everyone. Based on the observations of eclipses, Pythagoras, around the same time, believed that Earth was a sphere and in motion around an unseen fire. Finally, these ideas were eventually merged together, giving rise to a geocentric world with a spherical Earth in the middle. By the 4th century BC, the Greek had developed the first logically consistent cosmological worldview. This model was based on the Greek theory of matter, which assumed that all matter is composed of the 4 elements earth, water, fire, or air. Later, based on Euclid's discovery that only 5 solid shapes could be made of simple polygons, the 5th element of quintessence, or aether, as it's called, was also added. These elements had a tendency to separate from each other in space. Fire moved away from Earth, Earth went down, and air and water were intermediaries. So it made sense that each of these elements occupied a unique space in the heavens, giving rise to Plato's cosmology. Here, the stars and planets were carried around the Earth on spheres or circles arranged in a specific order, with the last being the celestial sphere containing the stars. By 330 BC, Heraclides developed the first geocentric solar system model. Assuming circular orbits, as philosophers believe that the universe has to be perfect and the perfect shape is a circle. Aristarchus developed the heliocentric model in 270 BC, yet this model did not gain ground. The Greek at the time could not conceptualize being on a moving object without feeling the movement, which would be the case if you have the sun at the center and the earth moving. They also raised the point that stars do not show parallax, while that was what would be expected in a heliocentric model. And finally, a geocentric model seemed more natural to them, and this can be thought of an egotistic way of thinking about the world, but it's how they thought the world works. The most prominent worldview among the Greek was the Aristotelian view. In this view, Earth is a sphere surrounded by a series of transparent nested spheres, about 47 to 55 of them, known as the crystalline spheres. These spheres move at different uniform speeds and describe the motion of planetary bodies around Earth. The Aristotelian philosophy required a continual application of force for motion. Hence, a void or vacuum between the spheres was impossible, since it would mean a lack of motion. And we know that all the stars and planets are moving. In the Aristotelian view, these spheres were thought of being made from aether, an incorruptible substance. The moon was thought to be the innermost sphere, touching the realm of the earth, enabling it to go through phases. The Aristotelian universe was infinite in size, with the outer boundary of stars rotating the earth. The universe is also steady state, with the perfect motions of its elements having no beginning or an end. Aristotle also discussed the causality of motion, reaching the conclusion that an unmoved mover is needed to initiate the motion within the universe, which would mean there needs to be a god. So to summarize what we went through in this video, 2,000 years ago, most people believed in a flat or spherical Earth that was the center of the world, while concepts of a heliocentric world had also been discussed and abandoned. The basis of the geocentric view of the world were 2 observations. First, anywhere on Earth, the sun appeared to rotate around the Earth once per day. Other planetary bodies, while all having their own motion, also seem to revolve around the Earth once per day. When observed from the surface of the Earth seems unmoving, solid, and stable. Up until this point, most of the ideas were based on mythologies and philosophical discussions to explain what was perceived by observers on Earth. From here on, though, math and scientific observations start taking an important part in how we perceive our world. And that will be the topic of our next video. Stay tuned.